and welcome back to the CIA. I'm Agent A, Director of the Junior Agents Division. You've been tasked with tracking down the most dangerous criminals in the world and bringing them to justice. This month we've got quite the case for you. Dr. Doug Grave is a mad scientist who became obsessed with bringing the dead back to life. He escaped our best agents, but we believe he's gone to look for clues in the land of the mummies. Be sure to learn everything you can to determine his location. For this case, we're sending you to Egypt.
Egypt is often divided into two sections, Upper Egypt in the south and Lower Egypt in the north. The sections are named this way because the Nile River flows from south to north. The river empties into the Mediterranean Sea. Without the Nile, all of Egypt would be desert. Only about an inch of rain falls throughout Egypt each year. But each summer, the river rises because of rains at its source far to the south in Ethiopia. Floods cover the river's valleys, leaving sediments needed for trees, plants, and crops to grow. Southern Egypt's landscape contains low mountains and desert. Northern Egypt has wide valleys near the Nile and desert to the east and west. North of Cairo, the capital, is the sprawling, triangular Nile River Delta. This fertile land is completely covered with farms. The first people to live on the banks of the Nile were hunters and fishermen who settled there over 8,000 years ago. They learned to grow crops and raise animals and built villages and towns. They traded with their neighbors and learned to sail boats. Around 3100 BC, the kingdoms of Upper and Lower Egypt were unified under a powerful king, later called a pharaoh. These kings built huge pyramids, temples, and other monuments. They also conquered other lands. By 1000 BC, Egypt had split into smaller parts and the kingdom was in decline. Strong neighbors attacked and took over Egyptian territory. In 31 BC, Egypt fell under Roman control. In AD 640, Muslim warriors took over Egypt and founded the modern capital of Cairo. They ruled for several centuries. In the 16th century, Egypt became part of the Ottoman Turkish Empire. European powers played an increasing role in Egypt starting in the late 18th century. In 1882, the British invaded and occupied Egypt. The British wanted control of the Suez Canal, which linked the Mediterranean Sea with the Red Sea, and greatly shortened the sailing trip from Asia to Europe. Egypt gained full independence from Great Britain in 1952. In 2011, a popular uprising toppled Egypt's longtime president. The country had several democratic elections since 2011, but the role of the military in government remains strong. Egypt's geography, population, history, and military strength have made it highly influential in the region. Along with oil and gas exports, Egypt's tourism industry remains a key part of its economy. Visitors flock to the country to see ancient monuments like the Great Pyramids and the Sphinx. About 90% of Egyptians are Muslim, which means they are followers of the Islamic religion. About 10% of Egyptians are Copts, one of the oldest branch of the Christian religion. Egypt's population is growing rapidly. This puts strains on Egypt's resources since most people live in a narrow strip of land along the Nile River. Having so many people in such a small area can cause overcrowding. Children are highly valued in Egypt, especially in rural areas where they help on family farms. Children are also expected to look after their parents in their old age.
A mummy. Is it dead or alive? Human or inhuman? You'll know. You'll see. You'll feel the awful, creeping, crawling terror that stands your hair on end and brings a scream to your lips.
Ancient Egyptians believed in many gods, and that when a person died, they passed into an afterlife. They thought that the individual would have a life that was very close to the one they lived in with everyone else. In order to have that kind of life, their body needed to be preserved, and they needed to be buried with all of the possessions that they would take with them on their journey into the afterlife. The process involved to create a mummy properly can take up to 70 days. It's not only a physical procedure, but the ancient Egyptians also involved their religious beliefs in the right way to create a mummy. The organs of the body that had been taken out were also mummified and placed in special containers that would be placed into the burial tomb with the body. Both the sarcophagus and the jars containing the body parts were sealed with black resin. They left the heart in the body, as they believed the heart was the center of all intelligence and emotion. But they removed the brain, thinking it wasn't very important. Pharaohs had the most expensive mummification of all people. Since the pharaoh was considered a god, they included many gems and amulets in between the layers of linen wrapping. They would also use a special sarcophagus for the pharaoh that was carved and painted in his likeness. The pharaoh mummies were placed in special burial places, along with many of the expensive items that they would take with them in the afterlife. Tutankhamun was an Egyptian pharaoh who is referred to as King Tut. Since there are no records of his death, this topic has been the subject of considerable debate. Some Egyptologists believe that King Tut might have been killed by a hippopotamus. Ancient Egyptians hunted the animal for sport, and statues found in King Tut's tomb even depict him in the act of throwing a harpoon. Hippos are known to attack and kill. Some Egyptologists believe that his death might have been the result of a hunt gone wrong. Ancient Egyptians invented toothpaste. Of course, there were no dentists back in the day, but ancient Egyptians contributed to innovations in dental hygiene with the invention of toothpaste. Ingredients included the powder of ox hooves, ashes, burnt eggshells, and pumice. Egyptians also believed in the afterlife, and that would explain the toothpicks buried alongside mummies, apparently placed there so that they could clean food debris from between their teeth, even in the afterlife.
All right, junior agents, have you retained enough information to track down the Dr. Doug Graves? We've intercepted a coded message by Dr. Graves. He says that he is hiding by the ocean gateway to Asia. Do you know where Dr. Graves is hiding? Can you track him down and bring him to justice? And where will we send you next month? Tune back in. Goodbye.